Hello guys on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 44 years old, and until not long ago, I believed I had a good life. A stable job, a solid home, a woman I loved more than my own reflection in the mirror. I believed in the kind of love that ages like wine, that grows deeper with time, with shared routines, with inside jokes only we would ever understand. We were married for 11 years. Her name is Alina. She's 39 now, 5 years younger than me. And when we met, she was like a gust of warm wind on a cold day, full of energy, wit, ambition, and that spark in her eyes that made people stop mid-sentence. Our love wasn't lightning in a bottle. It was slow-burning, quiet. The kind of love that crept in through comfort, then bloomed through loyalty. It was weekend breakfasts, shared playlists, long drives without a destination. It was fights about laundry and furniture that ended in laughter. It was trust. At least, I thought so. We tried to start a family. God knows we tried. For nearly a decade, Alina tracked ovulation windows, took injections, shifted diets. I researched sperm motility and vitamin supplements like my life depended on it. We went through 3 rounds of IVF at one of the top fertility clinics in the city. Each round drained more money, more hope, more of her smile. The third attempt, that one hurt the most. It was our last shot. We had saved for it for years. Everything was in place. And when it failed, she didn't cry. She just sat there, completely still, as if even her pain was too tired to move. That was the beginning of the silence between us. But not the end of us. Or so I thought. After that, I threw myself into work. And Alina, she seemed to throw herself into something else. At first, it was baking. Then gardening. Then suddenly, fitness. It started with a routine health check at the clinic, the one we went to during the fertility treatments. I was feeling sluggish, not sleeping well, and mostly just wanted a doctor to tell me I was fine. But the results were a slap to the face: borderline diabetic, high blood pressure, uric acid through the roof. If I didn't turn my lifestyle around, they said, I'd be looking at medication for life, and maybe a shorter one at that. When I told Alina, she didn't hesitate. She cleaned out the pantry that night. Cancelled our usual Friday pizza. Subscribed to a meal prep service and dragged me into the idea of a new us. At first, I thought it was just sympathy. But something in her clicked. She started changing, fast. And so did I. We signed up for a gym a few blocks from our condo. One of those trendy places, neon lights, upbeat playlists, mirrors everywhere. She was all in. Bought matching gym outfits, downloaded a fitness tracking app, even suggested we start doing 10,000 steps a day. I won't lie, I hated it at first. Every machine felt like a medieval torture device. My joints screamed. My ego did, too, when I saw guys 10 years younger and 10 kilos lighter gliding through reps like Olympians. But after a few weeks, the numbers started moving. My face looked less puffy. My clothes fit better. I could walk up the stairs without wheezing. And Alina, she transformed. She dropped nearly 20 kilos in 6 months. Her posture straightened. Her skin glowed. Strangers started glancing at her. And I couldn't blame them. She looked amazing. She knew it, too. The way she moved changed. She walked like someone who finally saw herself as powerful, desirable. And I was proud of her. Truly. Watching her become this stronger, healthier version of herself felt like winning, like maybe, after all we'd been through, life was finally throwing us a bone. But there was something else. A shift I couldn't quite name. She started spending more time at the gym than we planned. More time in the mirror. More smiles I wasn't part of. I'm not naive. I know people change. I've read enough relationship advice columns to know that love evolves or dies. But something about how we changed felt asymmetrical. Our gym routine became clockwork. We'd arrive around 6 in the evening, change, warm up, and hit the machines. And every time, without fail, there was him. His name was Ilya. One of the in-house trainers. Early 30s, 6'2", ripped like a comic book character. Bald head, trimmed beard, always in tight shorts and a smug grin that said he knew exactly what he looked like. And every woman in that gym noticed. Including my wife. At first, I brushed it off. You don't marry someone like Alina and expect no one else to admire her. And I wasn't threatened by every glance or smile. But with Ilya, it felt different. Calculated. Intentional. He'd position himself nearby when we worked out. Offer Alina tips on her form, even when she hadn't asked. Flex within her line of sight. Walk around shirtless under the excuse of cooling off. One evening, it finally broke me. We were on the ellipticals. Ilya stepped over to the cable machine directly in front of us and peeled off his shirt. Started doing chest flies, those exaggerated movements that made his pecs look like they were about to pop out of his body. I turned to Alina, expecting an eye roll. Some shared sarcasm. But she was staring. Focused. Her lips parted slightly. Then she ran her tongue across them. And that did it. I didn't say anything then. I kept it in. Buried it like I always did with the little things. But something cracked inside me that day. A whisper of doubt. The first drop in the flood. Later in the car, I brought it up gently. You saw Ilya doing his little show today. Huh? Oh, I didn't notice. You were staring, Alina. For a while. She laughed. Was I? I must have been thinking about something else. It was a lie. A small one, but a lie all the same. And the worst part? I accepted it. Because I loved her. Because I wanted so badly for it to mean nothing. Because I was scared of what it might mean if it did mean something. I told myself I was paranoid. That maybe I was overreacting. That men like me, average-looking, loyal, responsible, always felt a little uneasy around men like Ilya. But then the distance started growing. Not centimeters. Not meters. Miles. And I didn't know yet just how far she'd already gone. The thing about betrayal is, it rarely kicks the door in. It slips in quietly. Leaves its shoes by the door. Pretends to be a guest. You don't even realize it's made a home until you wake up one day and see that everything familiar is somehow off. After the incident with Ilya at the gym, I thought things might calm down. Maybe she'd realized it too, the line that had almost been crossed. For a while, she backed off. Fewer training sessions. More dinners at home. We even laughed again. I remember thinking, see. You were just being dramatic. Things are fine. But they weren't. We switched gyms shortly after that argument, not because Alina suggested it, but because I insisted. She didn't argue. Just shrugged and said, whatever makes you feel better. It was a win, technically. But it didn't feel like one. The new gym was smaller, quieter. Less of the posturing, fewer shirtless trainers. I liked it. Alina tolerated it. She kept her sessions to herself now. Worked out solo, didn't invite me to join. Claimed it helped her focus better. I wanted to give her space. That's what good husbands do, right? Trust. Support. Believe. So I did. But as weeks turned into months, I noticed a change. Subtle, but real. She started staying late at work. Then it was, I'll hit the gym after work, it's less crowded. Eventually, I barely saw her on weeknights. When she got home, it was always the same story, work was a nightmare. Traffic was hell. I barely got a workout in. She'd be tired. Distant. Sometimes cold. The bed grew bigger between us. The silence grew louder. One night, I made dinner. Nothing fancy, grilled chicken, roasted veggies, her favorite quinoa salad. I lit candles. I even played that playlist we used to make fun of for being too romantic. She came home 2 hours late. Didn't touch her plate. Said she'd already eaten. With who? I didn't ask. Because I was a coward. Because part of me didn't want to know the answer. That's the thing people don't talk about enough. When you suspect something, it's worse than knowing. The guessing eats you alive. The stories you make up in your head are often more painful than the truth, but it's that 1 in a million chance that you're wrong that keeps you quiet. So I kept quiet. Until someone else spoke. His name was Petia. Retired military. Security guard at the new gym. Bald, 60-something, always standing tall like he still answered to a commander. We got friendly over time. I'd bring him coffee, he'd tell me stories about his old army days. Good man. One day, I dropped by the gym earlier than usual. I hadn't told Alina. Just felt like doing a quick run. She wasn't there. But Petia was. And he looked at me strangely when I came in. You're not with her today, he asked. With who? Your missus. She's already upstairs with her trainer. He said it like it was common knowledge. My stomach dropped. Trainer? I asked. What trainer? He looked confused. New guy. Tall. Buzz cut. Muscular type. Names. Artem, I think. Or Anton. Something with an A. She's here with him a lot. They come in together sometimes. Leave together too. I smiled. Or at least, I tried to. Played it off like it was nothing. But my chest was burning. I left 5 minutes later. Didn't even make it to the treadmill. That night, I waited for her to come home. She arrived at 9:12 p.m. Sweaty. Glowing. Said the gym was packed and she had to wait for equipment. I watched her lie to me. Easily. Effortlessly. Did you work out with a trainer? I asked casually. She blinked. No. Why? Just curious. She changed the subject immediately. I let her. But that night, when she showered, I stood in the hallway and stared at the bathroom door, wondering, is this who we are now? Strangers who lie to each other through soap and steam. The next day, I called the gym and asked to speak with a manager. I told them I wanted to book a personal trainer for myself. Gave them Alina's name. Asked who she was working with lately, just to make sure I don't double book. The receptionist didn't hesitate. Oh, she's usually with Andre. Andre. That was his name. I hung up before she could say anything else. I wanted to confront her. God, I wanted to scream. Shake her. Demand the truth. But instead, I started watching. Tracking. I went full detective. Checked her calendar, her gym check-in times, her text history when she wasn't looking. I even placed a cheap GPS tracker under her car. I hated myself for it. But I needed proof. And the truth unfolded quickly. She wasn't working late. She wasn't stuck in traffic. She wasn't just training. They were going to his place. Or maybe hers. I never followed her that far. I couldn't. Seeing it with my own eyes would have broken something in me too early. One Friday night, she came home late again. Smelled like vanilla and sweat. I asked her if she wanted to watch a movie. She said she was tired. Fell asleep on the couch. I sat there, next to the woman I thought I knew, and stared at her sleeping face. And for the first time, I didn't feel love. I felt loss. Not anger. Not hatred. Not even jealousy. Just this gaping hole where my heart used to be. Some betrayals scream. Others whisper. Ours was the quiet kind. It didn't explode. It eroded. By the time I knew for sure about Andre, I wasn't even angry. Not in the way I expected. I didn't throw things. I didn't scream into pillows. I didn't call her names or demand explanations. I just started disappearing. Quietly. The same way she had. We still lived under the same roof, ate from the same plates, used the same towels. She still kissed me on the cheek when she left for work, still sent the occasional "don't wait up" text when she stayed late at the gym. The script hadn't changed. But the story was already dead. I stopped asking questions. She stopped offering answers. That was our unspoken deal. I began sleeping in the guest room, first under the pretense of back pain, then just permanently. She didn't protest. I don't even think she noticed. Her head was elsewhere. Her body too. Some nights, I'd lie awake listening for the sound of her coming in late. The door would click softly, her heels would tap against the hardwood floor, and I'd close my eyes and pretend to be asleep. But inside, I wasn't asleep at all. I was keeping score. Of every late return. Every lie. Every smile that no longer reached me. She became a ghost of herself, and a stranger to me. More radiant than ever, yet hollow in ways I couldn't explain. She was careful. Methodical. Never left a single text thread behind. Cleared call logs. Changed her passcode. She was a professional at this. Like she'd practiced. And maybe she had. Maybe it had been going on longer than I knew. Once, I came home early from work. Took the afternoon off without telling her. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Her gym bag was gone. I waited. Hours passed. She returned close to 7 p.m. Hair damp. Freshly showered. Smiling. I thought you had a late meeting, she said. Nope. Cancelled. She blinked, just once, before replying, well, I already had dinner with the girls. I nodded. Didn't press. But I knew. And she knew I knew. And that made it worse. Around this time, I started keeping a journal. It wasn't a conscious decision at first. Just a place to dump thoughts, record details. Times. Dates. Patterns. Maybe part of me hoped that if I wrote it all down, I'd find the courage to confront her. But days turned into weeks, and all I did was observe. I watched her text with a smile she used to save for me. Watched her pack that same old gym bag with a little more care, a little more perfume. Watched her kiss my cheek less like a wife, and more like someone maintaining a lie. She stopped touching me. Stopped looking at me. And I stopped recognizing the woman I had promised forever to. Then came the business trip. She said it was a weekend seminar. Some fitness nutrition thing hosted out of town. Said it was mandatory and all the girls from the gym were going. She said it with that overacted confidence people use when they're trying too hard to sound normal. I smiled and nodded. When do you leave? I asked. Friday morning. Back Sunday night. Need a ride to the airport? She hesitated. No, it's fine. We're all carpooling. Of course you are, I thought. That Friday, I watched her roll a suitcase out the door with more excitement than I'd seen from her in months. She wore gym tights, a tank top, and a new pair of sneakers I hadn't seen before. She blew me a kiss. I pretended to catch it. We were both acting. As soon as she left, I made calls. Checked her car's tracker. She didn't go to the airport. She didn't even leave the city. She drove to a residential complex 20 minutes away. Parked in an underground garage. Stayed there for the whole weekend. His place. Andre. I didn't follow. I didn't knock on the door. I just watched. Watched my wife play house with another man while I sat in my car like a security camera with a pulse. It rained that Saturday. I remember because the windshield fogged up and I didn't bother wiping it. I wanted to disappear into the blur. And for the first time, I cried. Not the loud, angry kind. The quiet kind, where the tears come without warning, and all you feel is a deep, slow ache that doesn't want to leave. She came back Sunday night, humming as she entered. Hair in a bun. Face glowing. How was the seminar? I asked from the couch. She blinked. Good. Learned a lot. I nodded. That's great. And just like that, we resumed our silent contract. She lied. I listened. Neither of us flinched. That night, as I lay in the guest bed staring at the ceiling, something changed in me. Not rage. Not even heartbreak. Resolve. This couldn't go on. Not like this. Not in this twilight space between love and detachment. I had to do something. Even if it hurt. Even if it shattered everything. Because the man I used to be, the husband, the provider, the loyal fool, was fading. And in his place, a colder version of me was rising. Some people say the truth sets you free. They don't tell you it burns first. After that seminar weekend, I stopped pretending. Not to her. To myself. I accepted what was happening, that my wife was cheating on me with her personal trainer, that she was building a secret life while keeping me around like an old sweater, familiar, comfortable, easy to ignore. But accepting it didn't mean I was done. No. I needed the truth. The whole thing. I needed it in black and white. Because somewhere, deep down, a part of me still wanted to believe there was another explanation. That it wasn't as cruel or personal or final as it felt. So I started collecting. Not memories, those were poison now. Evidence. The first thing I did was buy a burner phone. A cheap, prepaid thing with a bad camera and no name tied to it. I downloaded a GPS tracking app and synced it with the device I'd slipped under her car. Now I could track her in real time, wherever she went. Then came the voice recorder. I put it in her gym bag, hidden inside a zippered seam she never used. I tested it first, made sure it only recorded when sound was present. It wasn't paranoia anymore, it was survival. For 2 weeks, I recorded her routines. At first, it was boring. Locker room chatter. Heavy breathing from workouts. Small talk. But then, one day, I heard his voice. Low. Russian accent. Confident. Familiar. Andre. He said her name the way I used to, softly, like a secret. She laughed. God, that laugh, I hadn't heard it from her in months. Then came words I'll never forget. You keep looking at the door. Scared your husband will walk in. No, she replied. He doesn't come here anymore. He stopped caring. Or maybe, he said, he just knows he already lost. She didn't answer. Then came the sound of skin on skin. Muffled moans. Whispered things I'll never repeat. I dropped the phone like it was on fire. That was the night something inside me cracked open. It's hard to describe what betrayal does to your mind. It doesn't just hurt, it rewrites everything. Every memory becomes a lie. Every kind moment becomes a setup. You start replaying old scenes, trying to find the moment when it all shifted, when love turned into tolerance, and tolerance into contempt. Was it the infertility? The weight gain? The promotion she got when I was laid off for 3 months? Was it boredom? Or was it just inevitable? I didn't know. And part of me stopped caring. Because now I had something real. Tangible. Something I could show a lawyer, if it came to that. But more importantly, I had something I could show her. I began preparing for war. Bank statements. Copies of her text logs. Photos of her car parked outside Andre's complex. Screenshots from the tracking app. I built a folder, digital and physical, labeled simply, Truth. I even visited a divorce attorney, just to know my options. Turns out, in our state, infidelity still carries weight. Especially with hard proof. The lawyer asked me, do you want revenge? Or freedom? Both, I said. He didn't flinch. Just nodded. And yet. I waited. I kept sleeping in the guest room. Kept playing the role of the clueless husband. Kept smiling through dinners and laundry days and mindless TV. I needed to pick the right moment. I wanted it to hurt. But I also wanted her to look me in the eye when she broke. I needed to see if she'd lie all the way to the end, or if, just once, she'd tell me the truth. So I set the stage. One Saturday, I made breakfast. Pancakes. The kind she liked, with banana slices and cinnamon. She came into the kitchen wearing that old robe, her hair up in a messy bun, humming to herself. Wow, she said. This is unexpected. I smiled. Felt like being domestic. She sat. Ate. Laughed once or twice. Asked if I wanted to go for a walk after. Sure, I said. We walked through the neighborhood like nothing was wrong. Like we were still Daniel and Alina, the couple who met at a conference in Chicago and danced alone in an empty hotel lobby at 2 a.m. We held hands. Talked about nothing. The air was heavy with pretending. When we got home, I handed her a small USB drive. "What's this?" she asked. "Something I want you to see." She hesitated. "Okay." She plugged it into her laptop and opened the folder. Photos. Recordings. GPS logs. Time-stamped summaries. She clicked on a file labeled audio_4_27. And there it was. Andre. Her. Breathing. Laughing. Kissing. Clear as day. I watched her face drain of color. Her mouth opened, then closed. No words came out. When it ended, I asked, quietly, "How long?" She stared at the screen. "Daniel." "Don't lie," I said. "Not now." She swallowed. Hard. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Silence. "I gave you everything," I said. "Even when things were hard. Even when we couldn't have kids. Even when I was broken. I stayed. I fought." She finally looked at me. Eyes glassy. "I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did." She nodded. Slowly. And just like that, the performance was over. The day she confessed, the world didn't stop. The sky didn't fall. My heart didn't explode in some dramatic climax. No. It just sank. Like a slow ship, taking on water, realizing too late it was already halfway under. She sat there, on the edge of our sofa, our wedding photo still hanging above her head, clutching the USB drive like it might vanish if she held it tightly enough. "I never meant for it to get this far," she said again. The coward's chorus. I didn't speak. Just stood there, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Not out of anger. Not anymore. Just restraint. Exhaustion. "Then why didn't you stop?" I asked. She had no answer. What followed wasn't a fight. There was no yelling. No thrown dishes. No melodrama. Just truth. Bitter, overdue truth. They'd met at the new gym 3 months after we switched. He was charming. Persistent. Young. A change of energy, she called it. He made me feel alive again, she said. And I made her feel stuck. Like a husband-shaped wall she couldn't climb over. Like an obligation dressed up as love. She didn't say it like that, of course. But I heard it between the lines. I felt it in every carefully chosen word. "I tried to fight it," she whispered. "But I felt invisible around you." Invisible. That one hit harder than the cheating. Harder than the sex, the lies, the deception. Because I'd felt it too. Like I was fading from her field of vision every time she looked past me, every time her phone buzzed and her face lit up in a way I hadn't caused in years. Still, she'd let it happen. And kept letting it happen. That was the part one couldn't forgive. I didn't ask if she loved him. I didn't care. Because love wasn't the problem. Respect was. She lost it for me somewhere along the way, and never once tried to get it back. I told her to pack a bag and leave. Not forever, yet, but for the night. I needed air. Space. Silence. She looked stunned. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Wherever you've been going," I said. "You always find a place." The look on her face told me everything: guilt, shame, fear. But not regret. Not the kind that changes anything. That night, the house was too quiet. The walls, once filled with the smell of dinner and late-night giggles and lazy Sunday mornings, now echoed with absence. I walked into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her side was still warm. Her scent still on the pillow. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. I just stared at the ceiling and asked the same question over and over. How did we get here? The next morning, she texted. I'm at a friend's. I'll give you time. I didn't respond. 3 hours later, I called my lawyer. Started the paperwork. No threats. No drama. Just a clean, cold break. I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. I wanted peace. The thing they don't tell you about heartbreak is how quiet it can be. You imagine it'll come with sobbing and screaming, like in the movies. But sometimes it's just you, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at your coffee, realizing the woman you thought you'd grow old with is gone, even if her name is still on the mailbox. I boxed her things a few days later. Carefully. Respectfully. I didn't destroy anything. Didn't burn pictures or shred her clothes. I just packed her life into cardboard like a man wrapping up a job he never asked for. When she came to pick them up, she knocked gently. I opened the door. Didn't smile. Didn't frown. Her eyes were red. No makeup. No perfume. Just a hoodie and jeans and a woman who looked 10 years older than she had 2 weeks ago. "Thank you," she said softly. I nodded. That was it. No goodbye. No final hug. No closure. Just her walking away, bags in hand, the sound of her footsteps retreating down the steps of a life she helped break. And for the first time in a long time, I exhaled. It wasn't relief. Not quite. But it was the first breath of something real. Something honest. Maybe even the beginning of healing. No one tells you how quiet life becomes after heartbreak. Not just on the outside, but inside, too. The noise is gone. The anxiety, the suspicion, the tension. You'd think that silence would bring peace. But at first, it just feels like a vacuum. Like someone pressed mute on your soul. In the weeks after Alina left, I went through the motions. Wake up. Shower. Work. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. The bed felt bigger. The rooms colder. Her absence hung like fog in every corner. There were still traces of her everywhere, bobby pins in the bathroom drawer, a scarf in the coat closet, the mug she always used for tea, resting clean and untouched beside the sink. Some days, I'd stare at it for a full minute, not sure if I wanted to keep it, or smash it against the wall. My friends started calling more. I ignored most of them. What could I say? Hey, remember the woman I married with stars in my eyes? Yeah, she blew it all up for a guy who makes her sweat for a living. Some truths don't feel good to say out loud. Not because they're lies, but because they still sting. Eventually, I started picking up again. I had to. Loneliness was beginning to feel permanent, and I didn't want it to be. One night, my friend Marcus came by with beer and wings and no expectations. We didn't talk about her at first. We just watched the game, complained about work, and existed like two guys who'd known each other since college. Then, during a commercial break, he asked, "You holding up?" I didn't have to pretend. Not with him. "I'm still breathing," I said. That's a start. The hardest part of moving on wasn't missing her. It was missing the version of myself that existed when I thought I was loved. I missed being the guy who believed in forever. The guy who cooked breakfast on Sundays. The guy who planned surprise weekend getaways just to see her smile. Now, that guy was gone. Replaced by someone harder. Quieter. Less trusting. And that scared me. But life didn't wait for me to heal. Bills still came. Work still demanded attention. Time still moved. And slowly, so did I. I cleared out the closet. Donated the clothes she left behind. Repainted the bedroom. Got rid of the bed. Bought a new one, queen size, firm, with no memories attached. The guest room became my sanctuary. A place I chose, not a space I retreated to. And with every decision, no matter how small, I started reclaiming myself. One afternoon, I ran into Andre at a coffee shop. He didn't recognize me at first. But when he did, I saw it, that flicker of guilt mixed with defiance. He looked smaller in person. Less like the god I had imagined and more like a kid who got lucky. I could have said something. I could have caused a scene. But instead, I just met his eyes and walked right past him. Because in that moment, I realized something important. He didn't take anything from me. What Alina did, what they did together, that was her choice. And if she was the kind of person who could discard a marriage for some adrenaline-soaked affair, then she wasn't the woman I thought she was. She wasn't my loss. I was hers. That night, I went home, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and sat by the window, watching the city breathe beneath me. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel rage. I felt clear. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt sacred. The truth is, I didn't recognize myself for a while. Not after the betrayal. Not after the silence. Not after the goodbye. I was no longer the husband. No longer the provider. No longer half of something. I was just Daniel. Alone. And that scared me at first, until I realized it was also a kind of freedom. I started small. Waking up at 6 a.m. without hitting snooze. Cooking meals just for me, and plating them like someone who still deserved beauty. Lifting weights again. Not out of revenge, not for revenge body nonsense. But because I missed the discipline. The routine. The agency. I'd neglected myself for too long. Shrunk my own needs to keep a marriage alive. Now I was learning to expand again, to take up space in my own damn life. Therapy helped. I resisted it at first, told myself I could handle it, that men like me don't need to talk to strangers about feelings. But one day I walked past a mirror and didn't see a man, I saw a ghost in a hoodie. So I called. And I talked. And talked. And for once, someone listened without judgment, without trying to fix me, without reminding me of all the ways I should just move on. My therapist, Lena, asked me a question in our third session that stuck with me. Who were you before the pain? I couldn't answer. Not right away. So we spent weeks finding him. I started journaling. Writing down everything, memories, thoughts, regrets, small wins. Some days I wrote about the marriage, how it decayed in tiny, invisible ways. Other days I wrote about the future. About what kind of man I wanted to be now. Not out of bitterness. Not to win some invisible war against her. But for me. Because if I was going to rebuild, I wanted to do it with intention. I made a list. The man I had to become. Shows up for himself every day, even when no one else does. Doesn't chase people who choose to leave. Speaks honestly, even when it's messy. Protects his peace like it's sacred. Loves, but never at the cost of his own worth. I read that list every morning. I still do. One night, about 2 months after she left, I got a message. It was Alina. I don't want to make things harder, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time. There was no anger left in me. No desire to reply with fire. I typed a response. Then deleted it. Typed again. Finally, I settled on. I forgive you. But we're done. Simple. Clean. She read it, but never replied. That was closure enough for me. A few weeks later, I went on a solo trip. Oregon coast. Just me, the ocean, and long stretches of quiet highways. I sat on a rocky bluff one afternoon, the wind ripping through my hoodie, and I laughed. Really laughed. Because somewhere between the betrayal and the rebuilding, I'd found something unexpected. Peace. Not the kind that comes when life is perfect. The kind that comes when you survive something that should have broken you. The kind that whispers. You're still here. You're still standing. And you're not done yet. Rebuilding trust wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. Every morning I woke up and faced the same question. Could I trust myself again? Because trust is fragile. It's easy to give away. Harder to take back. And the hardest part. When the person you trusted most breaks it. You realize the damage goes deep. I started small. I kept promises to myself. If I said I'd get out of bed early, I did. If I said I'd meditate, I did. If I said I'd call a friend, I did. Every small action was a brick. Slowly rebuilding the foundation beneath my feet. People around me noticed. My sister told me I looked stronger. A few old friends called, saying they missed me. I realized I hadn't just been hiding from Alina. I'd been hiding from myself. So I made a choice. Not to rush. Not to pretend the pain was gone. But to be honest with myself. And move forward anyway. Trusting myself meant learning to set boundaries. I stopped answering her messages. Deleted old photos. Turned off notifications that dragged me back into the past. It hurt less with each day. It hurt less because I was choosing peace over pain. One evening, I sat with Lena in the therapy room. "It's not just about trusting others," she said quietly. "It's about trusting that you're enough, even when everything falls apart." I nodded. Because that was the truth I was fighting to believe. Months passed. And the man who once felt broken was growing. Not perfect. Not whole. But real. I started dating again, carefully, slowly. I told myself this time would be different. Because this time, the foundation was me. I didn't know what the future held. Maybe I'd find love again. Maybe I wouldn't. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I had rebuilt the most important trust of all. The trust in myself. Starting over felt like stepping into sunlight after a long winter, promising, but still a little blinding. I met someone new. Her name was Maya. She wasn't like Alina. No grand gestures, no intense drama. Just calm conversations and quiet smiles. Maya listened without judgment. She didn't push. She let me set the pace. Slowly, I felt the walls around my heart begin to soften. But shadows from the past lingered. Sometimes, when I least expected it, a memory would crash through. A laugh we shared. A song on the radio. Her scent carried on a breeze. I fought the urge to shut down, to run back into myself. But I reminded myself. I'm not the same man who believed his world would end. I'm stronger now. Still, I told Maya the truth. About Alina. About the betrayal. About the slow healing. Her eyes never filled with pity. Instead, there was understanding. And something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt. Times when I wondered if opening up was worth the risk. But with Maya, I felt something rare. A chance to trust again. New beginnings are never clean. Old shadows will follow. But maybe, just maybe, that's part of the journey. Because healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about learning how to carry it without letting it weigh you down. Forgiveness is a strange thing. It's not just about saying the words. It's about feeling them, truly, deeply, in a place that still hurts. I never thought I'd forgive Alina. Not after what she did. Not after how she shattered everything I believed in. But holding on to anger. It only made the pain heavier. One evening, I found myself staring at an old photo of us. A moment frozen in time, smiles, hopes, dreams. I realized forgiveness wasn't about excusing what happened. It was about freeing myself from the prison of bitterness. It took time. Long nights wrestling with memories. Days where I questioned if I could ever be whole again. But slowly, piece by piece, I let go. I forgave Alina, not for her sake, but for mine. Forgiving didn't mean forgetting. It didn't erase the betrayal. It just meant I was ready to live again without carrying that weight. And maybe, in forgiving, I could finally begin to heal. Maya was there through it all. Patient, steady, a quiet anchor in the storm. With her, forgiveness wasn't a burden. It was a step toward something new. The road ahead was still uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, I felt light enough to walk it. Peace didn't arrive all at once. It was quiet, like a soft sunrise creeping over a dark horizon. After everything I'd been through, I thought peace was impossible. But slowly, I found it in unexpected places. In the morning light, with a cup of coffee in my hand. In the laughter of friends who reminded me I wasn't alone. In Maya's steady presence, a reminder that trust could be rebuilt. I began to see that peace wasn't about forgetting pain. It was about accepting it as part of my story, but not letting it define me. I started to live again. To dream again. I even took up running, something I'd avoided since everything fell apart. Each step was a small victory. A sign that I was moving forward, not stuck. It wasn't perfect. There were days when the past clawed its way back. But now, I had tools, patience, self-love, and support. One afternoon, I sat on a park bench watching the world go by. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. I realized something. I was okay. Not because the past changed, but because I did. And maybe that was the real beginning, not of forgetting, but of peace.